All right, welcome to another video. If you are planning on running a webinar, please watch this video before you do so. It's going to save you a ton of money and a ton of time. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Mohammed. Over the last few years, I've been helping different coaches and mentors scale their high ticket offer. So anything where they're selling a program or mentorship for over $3,000. And this video is really just to kind of share my lessons. The entire channel is based off of lessons learned, what's worked for us, what hasn't worked. So in this video, I'm going to be going exactly why you should not run a webinar. If you hit specific criteria, and I'll tell you what that criteria is. So one, if you're doing less than 50K per month, please do not run a webinar. And I'll tell you why I say that. If you're doing less than 50,000 a month, simply put, you do not have enough data to be able to determine what webinar you should run and what offer to present. And the reason why I say that is, and this really goes to offers where you are primarily dependent on cold traffic. If you're dependent on organic traffic, then this doesn't really apply, because if you already built an audience that know, like, and trust you, the odds of your webinar being successful are dramatically higher. One thing that we've seen, what I've seen across all the different coaches I work with, is if you have a personal brand, the rules of info don't really apply. What I mean by that is, because if you've got maybe let's say 10, 15,000, 20,000 followers that are invested in you, you could really sell anything and people will buy it. It's not it doesn't take a genius to make organic work. This is purely if we're looking at things from a cold traffic perspective, or if you're looking to scale outside of your organic. Don't run a webinar, because your cold funnel will not work. Whatever works for you on organic, and this is a mistake I see often, is they'll take their funnel, or they'll take the webinar, or they'll take whatever VSL that works organic, and they'll try to take that and run it to cold traffic. And half the time, it just doesn't work, because the reason why your organic worked is because people already know you, they've been following you, they trust you. So even if this is garbage, right? Even if this is questionable, it's still going to perform. But when you go cold, everything is different. You are competing with everyone else that is competing for that exact same audience. So if you're doing less than 50K a month, here's why you shouldn't. And I'll tell you why. When it comes to webinars, the reality is you need a big testing budget. I want to say you need at least 3 to 5K minimum. And I would almost even consider this a gambling budget. You're literally gambling this 3 to 5K. Because the thing with webinars is, let's say you were to be super aggressive and you were to launch 4 webinars a month, so 1 a week. That's only 4 points of feedback. And what you need to realize is, even if you're being this aggressive, let's say you run ads for 7 days, okay, and then you have the webinar, and then you've got to wait at least 3 to 5 days for all the booked calls to complete, and then you see your revenue. So you got 7 days where you're running ads. You got another day where you're doing the webinar, so that's 7 plus 1, and you got another 3 days where you're waiting for all the calls to finish so you can see if this was successful or not. So that's, let's say, another 5. So you're looking at 7 plus 5, 13 days just to get feedback, just to get some data in. So that means you can only make adjustments. Again, if you're doing it weekly, you could do it a bit more, but you only get full cycles maybe twice a month. Now, if you're doing 4, obviously, you may have overlap. So let's just say you get 4 iterations per month. That's only 4 times where you can adjust either the messaging of the webinar, the ads that you run, right? You can review your sales guys' calls, or even your calls if you're taking them yourself. Let's say you're selling something less than 2K, maybe it's direct to checkout. You're looking at the sales page itself. So you can only really make 4 iterations based off of the data that you get. That is not enough time, just not enough. It's going to take you months to figure this out. What I recommend is, if you're doing less than 50K, your offer still isn't validated. If you're doing at least 50,000, 100,000 a month, then your offer is validated. People are buying it. And again, I'm sorry, just to mention, this has to be for cold. Like if you're making 50K organically, it doesn't really mean much. But I mean specifically cold. If you're making at least 50K a month cold, then by all means, take 3 to 5,000 of that, gamble it on a webinar, see what the metrics are, and make adjustments. But you need a steady flow of revenue, because this may take you 3 to 4 iterations, which means you've got to spend 20K on ads over a month to get things dialed in. And the only way you're going to be able to stomach this is if you're making consistent revenue through another stream. Now, others might promise you webinars, this and that, and they'll guarantee success. But to be honest, and I've spoken to people and I've worked with people that have made millions of dollars through webinars. The first webinar you ever launch, or the first couple, you're basically just gambling, you're testing, you're seeing what's going to work. And you need a decent enough budget to fill the room. If you can't stomach 20K in ad spend over a month at least, or even 6 weeks to test, don't run a webinar. There's so many other funnels that you can run. What I recommend, because now you might be asking, okay, well, if I don't have 20K in ad budget and I don't have 4 to 6 weeks to test, what else should I do to scale my offer to at least 50K a month? I think the best funnel by far for cold traffic, and this has stood the test of time, is a direct book to call VSL. And it's the one I've kind of mentioned in the last 2 videos I've had. Because look, it works. We do this for all of our clients. Headline, video, application. Booking page, thank you page. The great thing about this is you could spend 100 a day and you can get feedback within 24 hours. So think of it this way. In a month with a webinar, you can only make 4 iterations. With a VSL funnel, you can only spend a small budget, 100 a day, and make changes daily. That's literally 30 iterations. For you to even compete with this, you'll need to be doing this again. And we're being aggressive. We're saying a weekly webinar. You're gonna have to do this for at least 8 weeks. Sorry. You're gonna have to do this for at least 30 weeks if you want to be able to make the same amount of changes in a month. So in a month of you just running a VSL, you can change the messaging, you can change the headline, you can change the offer, you can change the VSL, you can look at call feedback, you can see if your closures are just not performing, you can look at what objections people are getting, you're speaking to people one-on-one, you can create nurturing material. Like, there's so much data you can make over the span of 30 days, while as if you wanted the same amount of data per se, you need 30 weeks. Which is what's 30 weeks divided by 4? 8 months, roughly 7 point something months. So if you just look at the comparison here, for you to get 30 iterations, it's going to take you 8 months with a webinar, with a Webby, and just 1 month with a VSL. So like, it just doesn't make sense for you to run a webinar if you're doing less than 50K a month. And to be honest, 50K per month is not that much. Let's say you're selling, I don't know, 5K program. That's 10 sales. That's literally 10 sales a month. That's 1 every 3 days. Like, if you can't do 1 every 3 days, you shouldn't even think of testing a webinar. Because just like I said, you're going to have to spend 3 to 5K. Maybe the first one doesn't perform. You're going to spend another 3 to 5K over the next week or so. You're in the whole $8,000. While as for a VSL, you only need to spend 100 a day. The biggest issue with webinars is you're basically spending to get people to sign up for a webinar, and you don't know if it's working or not until the webinar actually ends. So it's like this, like you'll spend the 7 days to advertise, the 1 day for the webinar to run, and then 3 to 5 days after, just to see all the booked calls that finish. And then you can see, okay, what's my cash per registrant? What's my close rate? What's my return on ad spend? So it's going to take you 2 weeks to get data where you could just get in a day through a VSL funnel. So like ultimately, when you look at the grand scheme of things, it always makes sense for you to run a VSL because you get quicker feedback, you get more insights from your sales team or yourself if you're taking the calls, which most likely if you're doing less than 50K, you're taking the call yourself. And then once you're able to make a sale every 3 days, I don't even know where I put it, but once you're able to make a sale every 3 days, right, for you to 10 sales, yeah, exactly, 10 sales a month, then you can say, okay, let me take 5K of that, spend it on a webinar, gamble it on a webinar, and see what comes out of it. And it's the same thing, because everyone's talking about webinars like, oh, it's this flashy thing to make money, and it's this best thing, and you know, people, and they flash all the revenue numbers that they get from launching webinars, but they don't show you the behind the scenes of how much it actually takes to make the webinar work and how much you have to spend, get them to show up, because there's so many steps involved. You've got the ads that you're running. You've got to get them to show on the webinar. And then once they show on the webinar, they have to watch the entirety of the webinar to completion until they see the offer. And once they see the offer, they then have to book a call. What percentage of them book a call? What percentage of them show on that call? From that percentage that show on the call, how many were qualified? From the ones that showed and were qualified, how many closed? At what price points? So there's so many different moving pieces and so much complexity. Yes, you can make things easier. Yes, you can have a setter that calls up all your registrants, gets them booked in. Yes, you can do all those things, and all those things work. I'm not hating against webinars. Webinars are amazing tools to get a good cash injection, especially if you do it correct. You could turn 3 to 5K into like 40 to 50K. So they do work. It's just right thing at the wrong time. If you're doing less than 50K per month, all you should be focusing is I need to make at least 50,000 a month consistently before I can say, let me go ahead and gamble 3 to 5K on this webinar. Maybe it doesn't perform, let me gamble it again. So you need to be able to stomach 20K in spend over 4 to 6 weeks, realistically. So I hope this kind of sheds some light. If you were planning on a webinar, you're honestly better off just running a direct VSL. You get much more feedback. You can spend 100 a day. You don't have to spend too much. Make changes. And then once you get to that point, then launch the webinar. It's just a matter of right thing at the right time to be able to scale your business faster. So hope this was beneficial. Any questions, please put them in the comments below. Link to my Instagram as well in the description. Would love to connect. Shoot me a text. Always happy to help out. And I'll see you in the next video.